This is Jedi Fallen Order for the PlayStation 4, developed by Respawn Entertainment and released in 2019. I try to integrate longer games with shorter games, or newer ones anyway, with my older video games from time to time, because some of these take so long, and this is a longer game and one of the more recent games that I've been playing. Jedi Fallen Order is a Star Wars adventure game, and coming right out of the gates, I have to say, it's a top-tier experience. We're talking solid budget here, AAA game, and I think it works on many levels. It's also probably not quite that expensive now, so if you're on the fence for an awesome experience and you're not sure what to get, this is probably a pretty good one to dive into, especially if you like Star Wars or being a Jedi. First, I think it's important to talk about the story at least a little bit, because there are a lot of Star Wars properties out there these days, and they all seem to be part of a slightly different timeline. This story takes place after Revenge of the Sith, and before Star Wars. It's somewhere in the middle of that. And I think that's, what, a 20-year space in between? Maybe 30? Maybe 20. This is after the Jedi Council was destroyed and a bunch of Jedis killed. And I guess it's probably plus 5 or 10 years. You play the character of Cal Kestis, who was a young Jedi in training when the Jedi Council was destroyed. After that, you didn't have a teacher, so you stopped training and you just went into hiding, and apparently stopped being a Jedi. Instead, you've just been surviving. Story opens up and you're working your job, which is you being a demolition worker in a junkyard of spaceships. Nobody knows that you used to train to be a Jedi, you're just working and living day to day. Since the Jedi Council was dissolved, a new band of Sith was created. That's the Inquisitors. Their job is to seek out and hunt down any remaining Jedi they find in the galaxy, or maybe anybody even with potential Force powers. Well, they found you, and that basically starts the whole story. You make some new friends who have a spaceship, and they're trying to put things back together, really. There's a pilot, a fallen Jedi, and there's this robot that follows you around in-game. Your larger journey is to pick up and find a holocron that was left behind by a deceased Jedi. The holocron contains a list of Force-sensitive children that are scattered across the galaxy, and you're trying to get to this before the Inquisitors get to it. The journey's going to take you across a few different planets in search of clues and people who might be able to help you succeed. As far as the story goes, I thought it was sufficient, although predictable in a few places. Honestly, with the Star Wars property, I'm really tired of the whole concept of the big villain reveal, where there's some big character in the movie takes off his mask and suddenly it's someone's relative. I'm getting sick of that. Because there's been some big character reveal in pretty much every major story since this was created. I'm looking forward to a time when they just stop doing that garbage. All the characters don't need to be so interconnected. This is a huge galaxy. Every character cannot possibly know each other. Every time that happens in a story, you can insert multiple areas here. After Empire Strikes Back, anytime a reference is made, I groan. You can make your characters interesting in other ways. I digress. The possible irritation of some story points notwithstanding, this game is a lot of fun to play and explore, and it plays really great. Best way to describe this game: if you've ever played Dark Souls, Demon Souls, or Bloodborne, you're going to feel right at home. It might not have as many configuration options as those games, but that's exactly how this game handles and works. You were a Jedi in training, so you do have some basic Force abilities. As you progress through the game, and you up your levels, you're going to unlock new skills that you can select. You naturally want all of them. But by the end of the game, it's possible you still won't be able to afford them all. Still, it's nice to unlock new skills as you progress, and they seem to happen at decent pacing in the game. We also have to worry about swordplay in this one, which is something that is heavily dependent on timing and blocking. If you run into a fight just mashing your buttons, it's not going to turn out very well. You actually have to pay attention to this one. I think there are a lot of skills you'd hope and expect a Jedi to have, and I think you get a lot of them here. Probably one of my more favorite things to do is to redirect laser fire back to the shooter. It's just a ton of fun, and it's something you're going to be doing from pretty much the beginning of the game to the end. We have these meditation stations throughout the game, and they basically are the points where you save your progress and it fills up your health. When you do this, however, it's also going to regenerate or respawn all the villains that you've defeated in the area, which is just like Dark Souls, and I think it is a really good mechanic. You have some basic customizations for your character, and as you go through the various levels, you're going to find cosmetic upgrades to your costume, your ship, your droid, and a lightsaber. When it comes to the lightsaber, you can change the color, the appearance of how it was constructed. It doesn't change how this works at all, but it is super nice to be able to adjust it because it lets it feel like it's yours. The game also has a really nice 3D map mechanic, which is super important to make sure you know where you're going to be going, because even with the map, especially on newer worlds, it can be confusing to get around. As you would imagine, the graphics are beautiful, and whoever worked on these environments did a bang-up job. These different planets look gorgeous. I found myself just staring around the screen from time to time because things just felt so vast, but detailed at the same time. There are some really stunning settings here. By the time I finished this game, I was excited to go to the next one for the series, although I did feel that by the time I got to the end of this game, the game started to feel like it was just a precursor. It didn't feel exactly like a full game. I don't know. I know I played this one for a while. This was a lengthy experience. I don't know, 20, 30 hours or something maybe. But by the end, you only add one additional member to your crew. And the truth is, I figured after she was added, there was going to be a lot of gameplay after this. But there wasn't. And that character really doesn't do anything. So when the game ended, I was a little confused, to the point where I thought that character wasn't needed to join your crew at all. Not needed in the slightest. I'm guessing for the sequel it's going to be different. Also, we get a handful of planets that we go back and forth, right? You can go pretty much any time you want for most of these. You can visit a planet, then you can come visit the planet again later, because there are going to be certain things you can't access because maybe you're not tough enough or have the right skill. I like that. It forces you to go back and forth. Very interesting. Now, I also think, though, or I expected, it just felt like there would have been an additional 1 or 2 planets to traverse. Don't get me wrong, there is plenty to do in this game, and bouncing back and forth between planets is great, but by the end, I just felt like there should have been 1 or 2 additional planets. Still, this was a great experience, and I really like how the difficulty settings can change the aggressiveness of enemies, and make blocking a little more forgiving. So if you find yourself in a really difficult spot, maybe you're playing against a tough boss, you can just adjust the settings on the fly to make the encounter a bit more comfortable. Truthfully, on the slightly easier setting, I think you feel a bit more like a Jedi. You know, I think there's been this expected power that you expect if you're a Jedi, right? You're expecting to be a badass running around with a sword, and you have superpowers. So it's a little weird to need 5 or 6 hits to defeat a boring old stormtrooper. Slight adjustment, depending on where you are, will make it a little easier handling for those spots. Don't feel bad switching it. I didn't. Normally I play these games on the standard setting. But there are a couple times when you're against the boss and it's just, you're looking for me to do massive preparation in terms of timing. Bust it down a little bit maybe, if you're having struggles to get through a certain zone, and then move on. Get back to the story. Well, that's all I have today for Jedi Fallen Order for the PlayStation 4. This was a great game, and I'm already prepping to go to the next one on the series. Really enjoyed this one, and I think the character of Cal Kestis is absolutely fantastic. I really hope we see more of him in the future. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and hope to catch you on another video.
On second thought, she listens to their transmissions. Let her find out on her own.